This video is sponsored by no one. You'd think I'd take a big load of cash, but my luck is as dreadful as my pools in Endfield. There's a statement that pops out here and there about Endfield being a game for no one, and if that was true, I guess I'm a nobody. But that makes many of us nobodies as well, like we're bandits. With the game being out for more than a week, clearly the game has garnered a certain audience, but also deterred a lot of people. Most people reviewing the game are non-Arknights creators, and let's just say in the global space for Arknights, there isn't that many dedicated creators, so I'll be one of them to make a big review for the game. Don't worry, I'm not serving a sweet dessert buffet. I have negative feedback on the menu. But before I start the review proper, to all of you that's watching this video, whether or not you've played Arknights, I really ask of you to watch through the entire video. This will be one of the hardest things I've ever done, but by the end of the video, I want to change the mindset that many of you have. I don't find most content creators sharing my perspective, and I could be the only one, but I sincerely want to try. Now for the first course of tonight's dinner, the first 10 hours. I was really worried when I saw the game state during beta test 2, that if they didn't change up the pacing, the story, the amount of clicking you have to do from tutorial screens after tutorial screens, I already thought it might not be well received, and I think that played into reality. The biggest issue with the tutorials is that you feel like you're always being told to only do one specific correct solution. It's as if you don't have control over your mouse, controller, or phone, like as if an invisible hand is guiding you the entire time. Wink at the Arknights players. A blatant solution that people would name is to remove the tutorials, but that is not the way to go, because that creates the opposite problem, where people don't understand the many systems the game have to offer. Tutorials must exist in the game, but it doesn't need to feel like a fork scratching on a plate. Because the tutorial was so connected to the story, the first 3 parts of Valley 4, the Hub, Valley Pass, and Original Science Park just felt a little soulless. Everyone goes crazy over the resurrection of Endmin, and Endmin wastes no time at all to solve all their problems. Everyone relies on you for food, supplies, and even rescuing. You can change your title from Head of Endfield Industries to Professional Search and Rescue Worker. Now the game does explain to you that you're the Endfield Crisis Response Team, so it is literally your job to rescue and help these people. But for you to do it all the time, I don't know if it's the most appealing thing for players to enjoy. It also doesn't help that the starting enemies are landbreakers, just rogue people who don't belong to any organization. Think of them like looters or pirates acting for themselves. Pretty boring enemy choice coupled with a not very enticing theme for a story, I would say. So unfortunately with this, people start rolling off the game within the 3 hours to 10 hours mark. Oh yes, another reason why people dip out of the game fast is because it's a gacha game, right? Isn't gacha for big fat pools? I gotta do all of my roles as fast as possible to tell whether or not this game is my calling. But then in that first 10 hours of gameplay, people get pretty disappointed by how they can't even get a first 6 star with all the pools they collected from traversing the world. If the game doesn't feel good early, that doesn't set a good impression that it's gonna get better anytime soon. So skitter out you go. I would guess that a large proportion of people dropped out in this front part of the game, and I think this cohort has all the right to do so. You're not forced to play a game. If you don't think a game is worth your time, then you should go do something else that you feel is better. But what happens when you get past the tutorial slog, where you finally see some semblance of a story or even a gameplay? At this point, suddenly with no more guidance, a lot of players start feeling overwhelmed. The shackles of the tutorial prison are gone, and when you leave for the first time to see sunlight, you realize you don't know where to start in the world. This creates a 3-way split. People get so confused and leave, others will go online, looking for videos and guides to tell them a good to-do list, or otherwise, the remainder will just roam and figure out what they think is the most ideal to do first. It's at this juncture, I would describe as post-Origin Science Park and pre-Origin Load Spring, that the remaining contenders in Endfield start to have their eyes open. Some people will still be itching to scrape all the gacha pools, but for a lot of people, they start to delve into the factory gameplay. Of course, when talking about the factory, this is the 3rd or 4th filtration system I'm naming. People also fall out of the game from this. They're thinking to themselves, why would you put such an annoying thing in my game? If players dive deeper into the factory, they will realize that the factory is automated. It works when you're online and even when you're offline. You can go to sleep peacefully and wake up to see a boatload of items. The factory can produce gear that, unlike relics that you see in Hoyo titles or Watering Waves, they have no RNG stats for you to roll for. They can also produce medicine that you can use for healing on the battlefield, and also supplies that you can trade with the outposts in order to get more resources to build up your units and their weapons. None of this production uses your limited energy, your resin or wave plates that you spend daily in a gacha game. It's all given to you by building your factory one time, only once, and you might never look back, giving you a constant supply of resources to help your teams. By Origin Load Spring, there's an accumulated 20 to perhaps 50 hours of gameplay. Why such a difference? It's because people get really engrossed about the factory. Of course, there are those who want to skip it, and they're doing so by using the blueprints of others. But for an actual big lot who found joy in this, damn, a factory game given for free, without spending a single cent. That just reminds me, this is a gacha game, but the majority of players kind of forget that there was gacha to begin with. Eventually, you can't be in the factory forever, so you make a move on until you finally see something good. The enemies in Endfield thus far could put some of you to sleep, but I think most would say that when witnessing the bosses, Triangulos and Marble Agglomerate for the first time, that actually gave some hope that there would be some good enemies in Endfield. If you didn't struggle against them, you'd still have a good experience. But if you did struggle, then you'll be so tempted to speed build your team, find out what are the best teams stated by the community, and then outscale the damage against the boss, auto-attack and smash the E button into your victory. Doing the last 2 maps of Valley 4 gives a bit of life for Endfield, but just how many people endured at least 24 hours worth of gameplay to get there, I'm not confident to say it's a huge lot. But definitely, it has garnered a sizable amount of people getting hooked into the game. I want to say that this is where there's a major discourse on social media, YouTube, Reddit and Twitter being the rampant ones. By day 2 or 3, online wars break out. There are literal polar opposite arguments of people calling this a terrible game, while on the other hand, people are calling this one of the most addictive games they've ever played. The fact that there is a large range of opinions and the extremes not even being small, there being a big group of mega supporters and also mega haters is crazy. Feel free to educate me in the comments, but I don't remember a game having such a big rift at launch. Maybe Valorant because Counter-Strike exists, but perhaps Endfield is facing the same thing because of the other gacha titles that are in the market. I don't have anything to say to the mega supporters, but I have something to say for the other side. That is, if a lot of you fell out because of the frontal gameplay irritating you, I think that's fine. I echo that same sentiment as you have heard from this video. But if you go around telling others that this is the worst thing ever or it's a game doomed to fail, I don't think it's fair to spread such things if you didn't play out the game. For some, it might even be that the genre of 3D action games doesn't sit well with you. In that case, a game that doesn't suit your taste is not a bad game for everyone else. Some will feel the same as you, but like with every game, every product, it will develop the audience that feels suited for it. Then, I also have something to say to people who fell out from the gacha. I like to inform everyone that there is more than 200 charted headhunting pools for free that you can get from day 1 of the game. Mind you, there's the pool for limited characters like Levitine, Gilberta, and Yvonne. The problem is that it's massively scattered across all the quests, chests, puzzles, collections for you to complete, definitely not within a day, which frustrates those who want instant enjoyment. I find that Endfield actually exposed something about gacha gamers. It's almost as if the gamer part of these people are being lost. Some people are just fueled by the sensation of rolling 10 pools after 10 pools rather than actually experiencing new gameplay for themselves. Have gacha gamers never felt the sensation of playing a shooter game, a real-time strategy game like StarCraft or Age of Empires, or an adventure game like Elden Ring, Dark Souls? Have they been reduced to just being enticed by visually appealing waifus asking for your money to pool for them? As a 1.0 launch patch, Endfield has perhaps offered way more gameplay than I think any of the other gacha games did at launch. This is elevated several times more when you witness Wuling, the next region after Valley 4. Suddenly the world has color, nature invites you, enemies become more vibrant and challenging than the ones you see for many hours earlier. The story characters become more engaging than ever, and it almost feels like a place you'd wish were your home. If people were so pent up to receive a 3D model of a character that consumes your gacha pools, rather than a beautiful 3D map to be a part of, free of charge, I think it's kind of sad. For myself, Endfield gave me a feeling of nostalgia. The feeling of playing Red Alert when I was a kid, playing it for hours and days. The feeling of playing my first JRPG titles, Legend of Heroes, Hyperdimension Neptunia. It's strange that I could never feel the same joy when I played Genshin or Wuthering. And not even Arknights did it for me. But Endfield hits it. Perhaps also because the combat has done something the other two big games couldn't. It is something that I see in Arknights, except not in the first year of launch, only 2 years further into the game's lifetime. This section I think is the hardest for people to relate with me, but I really want to do my best to explain this. The game state right now is that most retaining players do not choose to understand the combat. There's no incentive nor need to, and enemies don't push the players to think or care that far. As a result, people play the game not as a strategy that it promotes itself as, but rather like a hack and slash, where the so-called strategy only comes in the form of team building, everything pre-battle, not as much during battle. A lot of videos are teaching Enfield's combat similarly to the other gacha games. Learn rotations, get used to them, almost like ingraining it in your memory, and subsequently that becomes your way of life in combat. I approach the game not quite like the masses, and instead in the mindset of an Arknights player. Rather than to build everyone vertically, meaning to raise the levels up of the character to max out level 90, all skill masteries, all talents unlocked, weapons level, essences attached, and supposed best gear slotted, I went very differently. I chose a horizontal approach. If the game was like Arknights, a major thing that all Arknights players would have described to you of the main game is how we always say, low rarity, low builds can clear most of the content in the game, sometimes even the hardest ones. That is only possible because you understand how the teams work. The strategy you take to combat the stage can bring you to victory rather than to brute force with strong units and understand nothing of the stage. By going with a horizontal approach, I got to experience every character in my roster. I got more opportunities to mix and match and realize how with the change of a single character, the dynamic of the team is something new to learn, something to figure out how and why they work. I'm 1 week into the game, and for at least 10 of the characters I'm using, I'm still running them at skill level 1, blue gear, no talents, and still holding on to a level 20 weapon. And yet, I'm actually clearing daily dungeons that recommend level 80 with my level 40 team. I even decided to go against a level 80 boss with a team half that level. There's no time limit, and that's an opportunity to push myself. It's not that I don't want to level them, I also want to feel power. But I've come to learn that even more power comes from learning just how the combat works. The game isn't just about learning strict rotations and rinse and repeat. I ask myself, could there be more interesting and also free ways to tackle fights? How about carry towers and batteries along with me, deploy them anywhere, and use them to fight against enemies way higher level than me? I clear all the alluviums and get the chest rewards, the pools that I would want. How can I feel more power without using my limited EXP, T credits, proto prisms in scaling and operator? I didn't explore consuming food. You collect stray materials all over the map, craft food to give more attack, and that's the difference in you clearing a high level dungeon with 30 seconds to spare rather than running out of time. Becoming more appreciative of the combat can add what would be 20-30 levels ahead of one's current build. My own gameplay could perhaps dish out as much damage as a player running at level 70 team who is just holding mouse button and pressing whatever E's that appear or whatever skills they are feeling at the moment. This isn't to say that building vertically is wrong, but you are spending more resources to commit to them that could be given to other characters. When that happens, more often the combat will certainly look boring if all you do is stick to the same team for 20, 50, 100 hours of your gameplay. Some content creators out there are rushing to finish the entire main and side story, speed build their desired teams, only to stick to one, squeak out a second. They push to tell everyone that a certain team is the best, or level 80-90 is the sensation players are looking for. They're all looking for endgame, but to me, they miss a large portion of the game if they're only looking towards a subset of characters. I appreciate the fact that the game launches with the ability for me to push low builds to clear content, absolutely reminiscent of Arknights. And if you're an Arknights player, play like one in Endfield. Build everyone up slowly together, experience them, and you can perhaps find the same feelings I had. There's so much skill expression in the combat, personalized ways of playing the game. The very reason why I'm still playing Arknights for 6 years, and now adding Endfield to my games. The factory can be very fun or unfun for people, but eventually that will stop. Unfortunate, I know. I would love if they introduce a replayable game mode involving the factory, but the reason or the point that it stops is when it actually produces all the resources that you need to build up your units in an AFK manner. By spending less time gathering in the world, farming daily, walking mindlessly, the game is creating itself the space for much more hardcore combat. It hasn't happened yet, but when it does, I sincerely hope that just like Arknights, it rewards the players who understands the combat, the mechanics more than just the players who builds levels up to the sky. As an Arknights player, the world of Valley 4 is almost like a 3D representation of an Originium mine, or a laboratory that you would read about in their stories. Uling is also looking like perhaps another city to join the many that are in Yen. It is really weird to see how Originium is seemingly more accepted on Telos 2 than on Terra, but perhaps that could just be the core conflict of the entire story plot. The game has so much more for everyone to discover. Arknights player or not, if you haven't tried, give it a full chance. If you drop the game also, I ask similarly to give it a fuller time. If you think you don't like it, it's not for you, it is perfectly fine to give it up. Play the game in your own way. Consider the approach I said about exploring every character rather than sinking deep to a chosen four. Don't let others influence you too much on whether to enjoy or hate on the game, as you should have liberty to make your own opinions. I end off by saying, I truly love Arknights Endfield. I'm definitely still asking for more out of them, and I believe Hyperglyph is working to bring the gaming sensation closer to what it feels like in Arknights. I hope you guys can share the same love too. And that's that for my video. See you guys in another one. Bye bye.